can add to it. And that's why even in our current NUC effort, what we are providing in the curriculum is only 30% of the core courses. I beg your pardon, 70% of the core courses. And the universities are expected to provide the remaining 30%. Our goal is to make sure that universities take responsibility fully for curriculum. Because anywhere in the world, when you talk about a body like NUC developing curriculum for the system, you begin to, they wonder, what are universities doing? Even though in the process of doing or developing this national curriculum, what we do is that, of course, we don't do it ourselves, we get experts in the university to do it. But it's high time the university began to take responsibility for this area. And like I said, our goal is to gradually relinquish this function to the university. That is their function, really. So what are they teaching? With respect to curriculum, is the curriculum adequate to deploy the teaching? How adequate are the practicals, if applicable? We have some classes that have practical sessions and things like that. We also measure that. How are they deployed? How are the practicals assessed and things like that? We measure all those ones to determine the quality of teaching. We look at the adequacy of the assessment of the courses. How are they? We'll be talking about that. What are the students saying again? Because when you are looking at the assessment of the students on the staff, you also look at the assessment of the students on the courses they are taking. So you need to know their opinion about what they are saying. Next question is, where is teaching done? Today, teaching is not just within the brick and wall setting. You have face-to-face teaching, you have online teaching, you have a blend of the two. That is the ICT-enabled blended learning, which we are trying to encourage now. Because COVID-19 was an eye-opener to us, all of us. While some developed clients just simply told their students, go back home and begin to take lectures from home, clients like ours shut down our system completely. Completely. We will not have this kind of pandemic again. We are thinking that, look, this kind of thing should not happen again. If we have a semblance of this shut down anytime in the world, we should be able to retire to our homes and continue some level of teaching and learning. And that's why the ICT-enabled blended approach to learning is important. So you will be measuring the facilities that are available for the face-to-face teaching, the facilities that are available for online teaching, and a blended learning approach to teaching. And of course, if you're talking about blended learning approach, every staff must be trained, talking about capacity building again, to be able to deploy ICT in the delivery of their lectures. So again, here it is important to also measure what the students are saying concerning the mode of teaching, or where it is being taught. And when is the teaching done? We are talking here about timetabling. That's why we have timetables, effective timetables in the system. We ensure that our timetables are not overlapping. So I don't begin to use a particular space for two courses at the same time. So you ensure that your timetable is well laid out where there are no clashes. Apart from having your timetables laid out, you also want to ensure that the timetables are adhered to. We know from of places where lecturers will not come to class until about 2 weeks to the exam. So if you don't follow the timetable, what's the use of the timetable in the first place? So we must actually make sure that all these are in place, and these are things we also measure in determining the quality of teaching. And then what is the student saying here? So in summary, with respect to quality of teaching, high quality instruction means that the curricula, teaching practices, and learning environments are standard-based. They are standard-based. These standards are everywhere. If you take the National Minimum Academic Standard, for instance, they are there. Your own, I know you will have also developed something that will guide the operation in the system. They are all standard-based. So they must be followed. They are evidence-based. They are engaging. They are differentiated, culturally responsible, or responsive, and data-driven. I will go to the next segment as I begin to wind down with respect to this topic, looking at the measuring the quality of assessment. What is assessment? Assessment is defined as the action or an instance of making a judgment about something. You are making a judgment. Is the act of assessing a program or a course, for instance. Assessment is an integral part of teaching. There is no way you can do teaching without assessment. In fact, assessment will also help you to improve the quality of teaching. Most of the time, we just think we are just assessing the students to know what they have learned. By the end of the day, you should be able to look at the results of your assessment and be able to tweak certain things in your teaching methods so to make your teaching more efficient and more impactful. Assessment is an ongoing process of setting high expectations for students' learning. You want to ensure that what you are teaching them, they are getting it. You want to ensure that the objectives, the goals of that course are being met. That's why you do assessment. It determines whether or not yes, the goals of the education are being met. It measures progress towards established learning outcomes. If you get hold of our new curriculum now, before we just do a program, okay, what is the learning outcome of the program? Beyond that, we have come to the level of courses. Every course that you will teach as a lecturer must have a learning outcome, or must have learning outcomes, not just one. Must have learning outcomes. So you can effectively know whether you have deployed your delivery properly. Even the students ought to know ab initio what the learning outcomes of their courses are. So they can also be able to, they will be able to assess whether these learning outcomes have been met by their teachers. So it measures progress towards establishing learning outcomes and provides basis for reflection, for discussion, and feedback to improve university academic programs. So we are talking about assessment. We are talking about reflecting on what has been taught. It can be by way of discussion. It can be by way of feedbacks. It can be by way of continuous assessment, test, and examination. So you don't just restrict your assessment to just test and examination. It's a wider gamut than that. Assessment affects decision about grades, placement, advancement, instructional needs, curriculum, and in some cases funding. Because by the time you look at the assessment procedure, it will be helpful at the end of the day to even know what and what to improve your curriculum so that you get better learning in the system. Now, measuring quality of assessment. We must be able to know whether the content and quality of tests and examinations are adequate. That's why when people come for accreditation, they are asking for past questions, they are asking for answer scripts and things like that. So you are actually assessing the quality of assessment that way. You want to know the scope of tests and examination. Are the assessments or the question, do they cover the scope of your program of the course? Are marking schemes available? Are they well developed? Are the grading consistent? These are things you take note of when you are looking at quality of assessment. Do we have external examination system? Are quality external examiners employed? Do they have good and quality reports at the end of the day? Or do you just have the external examination system for the sake of adding it? The external examination system must actually have or provide value on the system. So what is the quality and external examiner system, the quality of the examiners and the examiner system? That you have to note that one. And then the report of the examiner system has to also be known. So in general, summarizing the quality of our test, of our quality of assessment, we must be able to talk about the content validity. We must be able to validate that what you have done in terms of assessment covers widely the scope of what you have taught as a lecturer. Not what you expect the teacher, the students to know when you have not touched them. What you have taught is very, very important. So is it also reliable? You also ensure that your assessment system is reliable. Whichever way you take it to, anywhere you take it to, it will be found to be reliable. That's why we often ensure that when you have tests and examinations, you have marking scheme that will guide your marking. If anybody carries those scripts and marks it, you will not the standard deviation will be very small. You will ensure that the assessment is fair. You ensure that students' engagement is well entrenched in the assessment, and you also ensure that there is consequential relevance. At the end of the day, what you are assessing them is relevant to the system. As I begin to conclude, it is important for us to know that teaching is one of the critical mandates of the university. And because it's a critical mandate of the university, it must be taken seriously. Without the teaching company, like I mentioned earlier on in the university will be at best a research institute. Where we teach. We have students in our institutions, so we are not a research institute. We are a university that carries out teaching, research, and community service. Efficient and effective teaching will impart appropriate knowledge in university students and make graduates stand out and outstanding in any area of endeavor that they find themselves. So you are interested in how your students will fare, your graduates will fare when they leave the system. That's why when you hear about some of them, you are proud of imparting knowledge in them in the appropriate way. Continuous training of academic staff is a good one. So to be a good teacher, you need to have or be engaged in continuous training, which is a necessity and not an option. And that's why, again, I will applaud what you are doing here. You have to keep it up. A conducive environment for effective teaching must be given top priority to make the university teacher stand as appointed. You might be a good teacher. If you don't have the necessary tools to work with, then the university cannot gain maximally from your expertise. And so, as Abuad has been trying, putting up great facilities for teaching and delivering the system, we don't rest our oars here. We keep building on what we have. Because what you have today, tomorrow will become obsolete. So we begin to build continuously to ensure that we have top-notch facilities and equipment to deliver teaching and assess our students effectively. Vice Chancellor, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention.
A round of applause. Please, we'll be taking questions now. We'll be taking questions and answers now. So please, if you have questions, please raise your hands. If you have questions for the speaker, please, if you have questions, can come out. Let's take questions. All right.
Sorry, I wasn't running away. I was just trying. I didn't know I have to come back here to answer questions. So I'm here for the questions.
I want to thank the keynote speaker for the wonderful lecture. And my name is Patrick Era. I'm College of Pharmacy. I'm particularly interested in the issue of the curriculum, the contribution of NUC, which is supposed to be 70%, and the university 30%. For some programs, I have observed cases where you have NUC part, particularly in some levels, reaching nearly 70%, 80 to 90%, giving the university little room for adjustment. So you now have a curriculum where the university is struggling to make changes. And we also know that some students may have to carry over some course in some university where you have carryover. And then they don't have that because we have a maximum of 50 credits. And yet you have 45 in the level. How does the university make up for the difference? How does the student benefit from such a thing? How does the lecturer don't end up doing poorer than he's supposed to do because he has to do extra work now to cover up so many things? Why so much large content in some of the courses that they may not be able to cover within the defined period in a credit load? These are the questions I want to find out. Thank you very much.
Please, let's take questions, then he will answer all. Any other question? Please, you have a minute for a question or comment.
Thank you, sir. My name is Yakini Lawa, DAP Abuad. Now, I want to refer to the issue of education. Some time ago, there was this story that for a lecturer to be able to teach, you must have PGD in education. I recall that the NUC Executive Secretary reacted to this recently, and I will quote him. He said, at the opening of a 5-day transformative higher education pedagogy and practice organized by the NUC and the University of Sussex, London, on Monday, 25/9/2017, he made a statement that while pedagogic skill and competence are necessary to ensure continuous involvement in teaching and learning and the attainment of desired learning outcomes, that the NUC believes in a systematic approach to pedagogical training on the basis of regular professional development. My question is this. We had a team of accreditors that came here, and they rejected our certificate for this program. That is not a professional certificate. How do you react to that? That's question number one, sir. Question number two, we have some accreditors that came to Abuad, and they came with 2018 unapproved BMAS, and we refused. We told them that the operating BMAS is 2007. What is your position there, sir? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Engineer Professor Dada, Provost College of Engineering. My question is also very similar to the last one, but a little different. Considering the fact that the dynamic changes in the trend of all the discipline nowadays throughout the world, and now considering the fact the rate at which the curriculum are being developed by the Nigerian universities, the two rates are not moving at the same rate. So that means in order for us to turn output that will be useful to the industry, these two need to align in order to get to where we are going. Otherwise, we may not be able to reach where we are going. We just continue to turn out graduates that will not be useful to the society. What is the NUC doing to actually address this area? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please, 2 more questions. Okay. Please, can you come forward?
My name is Dr. Olujobi Olushola Joshua. How can we break the barrier between CSR and community service development in Nigerian university community. How can we break the barrier between corporate social responsibility, CSR, and community service development to ensure that the stakeholders benefit from the output and input of the site? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Final question.
Morning, our able speaker. I'm Dr. Alashe by name. You have said in your conclusion that teaching is one of the critical mandates of the universities. But then we have the research and the community service by the side. Between teaching, research, and community service, which one should be accorded the most attention, considering those at the receiving end? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The speaker will be responding to all questions.
Thank you very much. The last question is very funny, actually, but I will try to do my best to answer these questions. Now, the first question was on the issue of the curriculum. Talking about the problem or the challenges of allotting 70% to NUC and 30% to the universities. And then the challenges of how do you make up courses when you have carryover and the likes and things like that. Now, in answering this question, we must also bear in mind where we are coming from. The 70-30 NUC to university contribution to curriculum is a new development. Before now, it has been solely 100% from the commission, which we also sat in the commission. We have done some introspection and we feel that this is not correct. In fact, that's why if you listen carefully when I was delivering the paper, one of the things I said was that you go to many international forums, fora, you are talking, okay, yes, we have something like BMAS, we have something like minimum academic standards and the likes. And they look at you funny. Because when you talk about curriculum, it should be placed in the domain of universities exclusively. I remember one of the meetings we had with the Vice Chancellor of our retreat with our ES when they first came on board. In fact, he proposed to the Vice Chancellors then that we're going to relinquish 50%. It started with 40. That will be providing 40% of the curriculum from the NUC, then the university will be providing 60%. Of course, can guess what the reaction of the Vice Chancellors were? It was too drastic. It was too drastic. So what we decided to do there was to, okay, let's see what we can do. In this curriculum review, they suggested 80-20. The NUC will provide 80%, the university will provide 20%. I said, okay, no problem. We'll start with 70-30. Let's begin to gradually let the university take up the responsibility of curriculum. We cannot all, in quote, be teaching the same thing. Yes, chemistry is chemistry everywhere. Physics is physics everywhere. But there are also certain peculiarities of courses that are peculiar to your domain. You can make yourself stand out or create a niche for yourself in a particular area. How do you do that when you all do the same thing? So we thought that it is important that the university begin to take responsibility for the curriculum. If we do it effectively, we'll be able to, all the challenges we mentioned about, we'll take care of them. I mean, before now, even the minimum academic salary, we call it by name minimum. Just like you alluded to, many of us call it maximum standard. Because there was no room for maneuver for the universities. And this is not good for education. So there must be room for universities to be able to build their own peculiarities, what will make them stand out and excel in their teaching and learning, or whatever it is you have in the system. So, I mean, we should be appreciating NUC for actually beginning to leave this aspect for the university, which I feel the university should take wholeheartedly and run with. All right? Having said that, we also have the issue of educational PGDE by my senior DAP, I will call him colleague. It's my senior DAP grandfather, right? PGDs, that you must have a PGDE to be able to teach as a lecturer in the university. We found that this work, it will not go well in the system. And that's how my ES reacted to it, the way he reacted to it. We will be doing it gradually. That you have a PGDE in education doesn't mean you are going to be a good teacher. Right? The things the capacity building we are doing like this, for instance, should be able to make you improve your teaching. There are some people that have their PGDE and still cannot teach the way they should teach. So it's about continuous training. We cannot force everybody in the system. You are an engineer, you are a professor of medicine, you tell you to go back and take a PGDE before you can teach your program. No. But those who feel they can actually take this to enhance their teaching abilities, why not? But we cannot make it compulsory in the system. Now, talking about those who come to accredit your courses and they tell you cannot accept certificates like this and come here, I'm sorry to say, with due respect, they don't know what they are doing. I'm sorry to say. Because sometimes we send people on accreditation and they do things that we didn't send them on. This is one of them. I don't know which capacity building program in teaching, right? In quality teaching, that what you are doing here, with all the resource persons you have invited, what you are doing here cannot compare to. I don't know. So it will be surprising for somebody to come here and say, well, okay, this is an evidence that we are doing training for our staff to be better in teaching, and yet they are not accepting certificates that you issue from meetings like this. So that is surprising for us. The issue of also on accreditation, talking about the BMAS, if you look at the story of the BMAS, we developed the first set of minimum academic standards when the commission was given the act or the legal framework to do that in 1989. The first set for the 13 disciplines existing in the system at that time was produced. And then we did a review in 2004 when Professor Kebukola was the ES of NUC. And that went through a period of up to 2007 before it was approved by the Federal Executive Council for us to use. And unfortunately, I say unfortunately so, that is the one we are using up to today. We made an attempt to review the BMAS in 2011. That attempt wasn't too successful. We also tried in 2018. In fact, the 2018 edition, the comments from that document and from the document that they emerged in 2018 that was circulated amongst Nigerian universities, yes, for their comments, which we use as the working document for the review that we have just concluded now. It hasn't been a good story for us, particularly the NUC, for not following what's it called? The periodic review for BMAS. Ordinarily, a curriculum by standard should be reviewed every five years, ordinarily. And when the need arises, it could be reviewed in less than 5 years. Because, the way the education is dynamic in the world today, you cannot continue to wait for 5 years when there's a new trend. I will keep teaching the old trend. But thank God for the people who have in the system who are so injecting new trends despite the obsolescence of the BMAS. So we are hoping that that mistake from the NUC also will not continue. That will review our curriculum as and when due. And the universities also have the responsibility to continuously review their curriculum. So that is the story about which BMAS we are using now. But by the grace of God, the core curriculum minimum academic standards will still come into being to be used in the system. Rate of curriculum development. Okay. not useful to the industry. Yeah, talking about also in the same vein, and the universities and the industry relationship. How do we match this? I'm just paraphrasing your question. What is NEC doing in this area? One of the things we have done with respect to the triple helix, that is the relationship between government, the industry, and the academia, is to first of all sign a memorandum of understanding with the Nigerian Economics Social Group. And this is a private umbrella for the private sector, right? And we have since held a retreat, and we believe that it's high time we began to leave our silos and begin to join hands to promote academic interactions, to promote high quality university education, to promote higher education in Nigeria. Because what we have now is everybody working in their respective silos. Universities are working on their own, the industries are working on their own. Of course, in that retreat, we're able to tell ourselves the truth. While the universities are blaming the industry are blaming the universities. But we agreed that we can work together. That is how a good system thrives. In our curriculum review efforts, for instance, the private sector was represented. They were represented. And that is how it should be. Even in your development of your internal curriculum, the private sector, the end users of your students must be involved. Because you are producing students for their market. That's how it's supposed to be. So we are changing the narrative in this area. We are engaging more with the private sector. We are able to, our annual research and development fair that has been come out for some times now is made revived. Again, we are working with the private sector. Because when you do your research, you have to take it to a place where they will see it. The private sector also needs to begin to get involved more in the universities. Those are the kind of decisions we read at the meeting. We believe that we have the student industrial work experience scheme now. We can also have what we call the teachers industrial work experience scheme. Let it be that a lecturer can decide to go to the industry for his or her sabbatical and know what obtains in the industry at the moment, so that when he comes back to the university, he can train students to meet that market. So these are part of the things we are doing to make that relationship between the industry and the academia very strong. And we believe that very soon we'll be getting results in that area. Now the issue of corporate public responsibility and community service. Well, for corporate public responsibility, I believe that it applies to almost all corporate entities, that you must give back, right, to your host community. You must. It's your corporate public responsibility. For the community service development area, I mean, for that one, we often place it in the domain of the universities because we talked about the tripartite mandate of the university being teaching, research, and community service, right? You should be able to impact the environment under which you serve, or where you are hosted. So at the end of the day, you look at the corporate public responsibility and the community service development, whatever it is, they are virtually aiming at the same outcome. I don't think there's too much difference there, except for who is handling what. It might just be an issue of semantics and of nomenclature. They're actually doing the same thing. Now, the last one is on teaching being a critical mandate of the university. The person asked, which one should we take more serious? Which is better than the other? I said teaching, right, is one. I didn't say all of them. I said one of the critical mandates of the university. That means if you call research, research is also one of the critical mandates of the university. Same with community service. So asking me which one will I play at a higher pedestal, it will be difficult to do. Because you need a university to engage or for the staff to engage in research, right, to increase knowledge. All we are doing today, the things we talk about in your subject areas, they are all products of research. So if there is no research in the system, what will you teach? Research will impact positively on teaching. To impact positively on teaching. Teaching will actually also bring out areas where you need to research on to make teaching better. And by the time you look at research efforts, at the end of the day, it should contribute to community service or community development. They are all interwoven. And if I want to submit there, I will submit that they are all important. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, you can. Thank you, sir. That was an amazing lecture, just like we've been learning since yesterday, on the quality of a teacher, or quality to assess ourselves in our teaching. So that's all we've been doing since yesterday to today. So thank you so much, Dr. Noel Sally. I'm very sure we all enjoyed the lecture. So, we're almost done with this morning session. So please, just to remind us, in each of our colleges on our various platforms, a link was sent to us, an assessment form for each and every one of us to fill. So please ensure you fill them. So that means after each breakout section, you're expected to fill an assessment evaluation form, Google form. So please ensure you fill it, because it also serves as an attendance for each of these sessions. So going forward now, we're going to go into the next phase, which is our breakout section. Just like we did yesterday, we have 2 breakout sessions for today. So we know the engineering and sciences, their venue is here, so you maintain this venue. Then for College of Law and Social and Management Sciences, the same venue as yesterday, Olabi Hall. Then Medicine and Health Sciences and Pharmacy, venue is PTCF. Then FETHI, their venue is the Abuad Auditorium. So please, after this, let's just move quietly to our various sessions. That's where we'll be having our tea break, just like we did yesterday. So please, let's ensure we move there so that we can start early with the breakout sessions. Thank you. Please, let's take the Abuad anthem. The Abuad anthem, please. Media.
Believer in industry and determination, a unique environment with aesthetic structures, a beckoning university, delivery unequal. Design for high quality education to mold character and infuse knowledge how to lead others. Proud of Abuad, they launch a path to excellence with determination and faith in our philosophy of industry, service and character. Our future for greatness and excellence is assured. And excellence is assured. And excellence is assured.
Sorry about that. Please, let's remain standing while the management and our guest speakers leave the auditorium first. Please, let's remain standing as they... Okay, please, there's a photograph section for the management and the guest speakers. Pictures.